Time for our top 10 albums of 2022. This will be a two-parter. First of all, we're going to start with our new cast members, Mitch and Lauren. Then stay tuned for myself and Tyler's list afterwards. So the year's over. Let's get right into it. First up, we got Mitch with his list. So Mitch, what was your process of compiling this list?
Spotify helped me out a lot with this, I can't lie, because they do the year-end Wrapped. So I got my 2022 Wrapped, and that really put into perspective what I was listening to most this year. And then also just like, because I save all my notes, of course, from all the shows we've recorded since I've started. Just like looking through all of those, seeing what I gave like the most positive or like the highest rating to. That also contributed. So you'll see that half of my list are things that we have reviewed and the other half are things that we have not reviewed.
That's totally fair. So you got the floor. Run us through your list. Go.
So at number 10, I have the album Preacher's Daughter by Ethel Cain. It's kind of like a indie soft folk sort of kind of artist. Her music it's all very kind of low key, a lot of just songs about kind of living in like the middle of nowhere and, battles with religion and stuff like that. This album, it's very intimate. It's also very long. She had like an EP that was like my favorite thing like a year ago. But, Preacher's Daughter, it's still great. It's beautiful. I had the pleasure of seeing her and she put on an amazing show. Highly recommend this album for just some like easy listening. So that brings us to number 9. It is Crash by Charlie XCX. It's just so goddamn fun. It's just dance music. This is another artist I had the pleasure of seeing at Firefly Festival. And she was like easily in my top 5 most anticipated to see. Recently picked this one up on vinyl, so I stuck by my rating of I did buy this. So yeah, just really good, like hyper pop, electronic, dance kind of music, nothing too serious. It's just something to let loose. So my number 8 is the album See You There by Matt Watson. I first knew of him as a YouTuber, the YouTube channel Super Mega. He's a very funny, like not serious guy, but then you listen to his music and it's like, oh my God, like he actually like has crazy talent. It's kind of like lo-fi bedroom pop sort of vibes. But every track on here just goes hard. I was getting into his music last year and I've just been waiting for him to release something. This is his first like full length and he really knocked it out of the park. Number 7, this is one of my favorite artists of all time, Wicca Phase Springs Eternal, with his album Full Moon Mystery Garden. This is a long album. Tracklist wise, it's long. I think it sits at around like 20. But some of the songs are a lot shorter. Most of the songs are packed of features, with a lot of prolific people that just like are a part of Goth Boy Clique. Fish Narc, Darcy Bayless, R.I.P. Eternal, Fantasy Camp. These are all producers and artists that have worked with Wicca Phase before, and he just has pretty much everyone he's worked with that's still around just highlighted on this album. It's SoundCloud rap, but it's not bad SoundCloud rap is what I'll say. It's that emo kind of if anyone's familiar with the band Tiger's Jaw, Wicca Phase was the guitarist and vocalist of that for the beginning years of them. So a lot of what you hear is kind of going to be lyrically a little reminiscent of that. But all in all, it was a solid album. Next one is number 6, Being Funny in a Foreign Language by the 1975. Yeah, I said it, I guess, best when I reviewed that one. Genuinely just a solid 1975 record. I thought that their last 2 definitely were not as good as this. I think they released like 5 or 6 singles before this album came out, but I was into all of them. So the hype for like when the full album came out was like very, very high for me. And I really wasn't let down. I genuinely enjoy this album. Number 5 is Diaspora Problems by Soul Glow. I remember, Jarrell saying we're going to review Soul Glow. I was like, okay, this is a band I've wanted to listen to for some reason. Like, I hear the name all the time, but I just like haven't checked out, just being in the hardcore scene and stuff. And from the very first track, which is Gold Chain Punk, I was so hooked. And I have been listening to that album for like the entire year. I think that was one of the first ones we reviewed of 2022. And that was just like life-changing for me. And I've just been a huge Soul Glow fan since then. So like really cool mathcore with like a little hint of rap. And, they talk about like actual like societal issues right now. I think it's a very important album, and I think it deserves a lot more than it actually got. Number 4 is Smithereens by Joji. This album was a lot shorter than I wanted it to be, but I am always so thirsty for more Joji music that it doesn't even matter. So this came out. I love every track on it. Am I a little disappointed? Some of them are shorter than they should be, of course, but it's something from Joji. So I'm still going to be stoked. I listen to it definitely like at least 3 times a week still. It's just a perfect album, aside from the fact that it's too short. Number 3, we've got Horse on Route 66 by the band The Garden. The Garden is an incredibly hard band to explain to someone. There's hints of like electronic stuff, there's grunge, there's hardcore, there's classic rock, there's surf rock. They have this expression called vada vada, where it's what that means is self-expression with no boundaries, and they like truly encapsulate that. This album is fantastic, and waiting for this album to came out, it really was worth it. This one's definitely more of a grunge kind of tone, which is a lot of what I listen to, so it just fit perfectly. Gonna go to number 2 now, is The Hum Goes On Forever by the Wonder Years. I know you knew that it had to be on my list because the Wonder Years is like one of my favorite bands of all time. I've talked about it a million times before. They're so important to me. And I really loved their last album before this, which was Sister Cities. But I really feel like they just blew it out of the water with The Hum Goes On Forever. This is another band I got to see when they were touring this album. And it's just one I keep revisiting, I think even more than Sister Cities at this point. I've got it on vinyl. I spin it all the time. It's truly insane to me just like watching this band evolve for like the past like over a decade and just see where they are now. And it's just like I have truly grown with this band, and I don't know what else to say, but this album is beautiful. So highly recommend. And now we're at number 1, which is Celebrity Therapist by the Callous Dowboys. I don't know if I've ever mentioned to you guys on the podcast how much I love the Callous Dowboys, but they're kind of like a mathcore, heavy hardcore band. And, it's just very, very chaotic but the lyrics are just like so beautiful. It's just, a lot about like struggling with fame. It's not even like they're like a famous band or anything, but it's kind of talks about people being like corrupted in Hollywood, and just like such a solid track list. It opens up with Violent Astrology, which is just, with lyrics like when I see your American flag, I don't feel a fucking thing, even if it's at half mast. Like, so fucking insane. It closes with the song Star Baby, which is straight up one of my favorite songs, period, that came out this year. Just like spectacular lyrics in that. It goes from really heavy to kind of like, a little slower where he's singing, and then back into the screaming. It's just such a perfect album. This is like one of the few artists I haven't seen on this list, and I would kill to see the Callous Cowboys. I know that show would be insane. So yeah, that's my list. That's my top 10.
All right, good list. I come to realize that there's a lot of music that I have not heard that you have to help us out more on for the new year. So next up, we got Lauren with her top 10 of the year. Lauren, so how did it go for you making your first ever top 10 list?
Yeah, I feel like first and foremost, I should have utilized the tool that Mitch did in the Spotify production of what you listen to. I feel slightly disadvantaged in the fact that I am such a singles person versus an albums person these days. So what I did to put my list together was kind of pull from whose singles I listened the most to, and then in turn decided to listen to their albums in full if I had not. All in all, I think I did my due diligence.
We believe you. And now, without further ado, take it away, Lauren, with your list.
All right, here goes. Number 10 for me was Gemini Rights by Steve Lacy. I think his falsetto is my male Mariah Carey. He's fucking so wild and weird and amazingly talented. I was turned on to him by my friend's 16-year-old son. And I am so grateful. So Thomas, if you're listening, thanks for introducing me to Steve Lacy. He made number 10 on my list. Number 9 is an album we did a review and I praised, Harry's House by Harry Styles, because who doesn't heart Harry Styles? And this album has matched all of the like I've had for all his other stuff on his solo ventures. Number 8, To Mirror Mitch Being Funny in a Foreign Language by the 1975. I have absolutely loved them since like 2014. And they made my list because I've been playing them nonstop in a mix I made on my Spotify. So I imagine that's going to be on my 2023 Spotify frequently played. Number 7, Candy Drip by Lucky Day. That very much falls into the category of my R&B that I live and breathe. And the song Over was my, I think, number 2 played in my Spotify list for the year end. Number 6 was What I Didn't Tell You by Coco Jones, who I thought was a new artist in 2022, but actually came out in 2019. And to me, she was like if Erykah Badu and Doja Cat had a baby, they would be Coco Jones. The song I See You is hitting the airwaves a lot right now since probably December 2022. It's super sexy and her voice is liquid smoke. She's fucking phenomenal. If you haven't heard her, I strongly urge you to check her out. Number 5, Jarrell, I bet you never would have guessed that I like Latin music. Un Verano Sin Ti by Bad Bunny is my number 5 top of 2022. And if only our listeners could see my puppet legs dance when I listen to my Spanish music. Number 4, Chris Brown, Breezy. And I know that I'm getting a lot of besmirching for my love of Chris Brown, but art before artist sometimes is the way I like to think. Number 3, Dawn FM by The Weeknd. I've had a hard on for The Weeknd for a long time. I don't think it'll ever go away. This album was so different to me than what he normally does. And Dawn FM is a play on the fact that the entire album is to emulate listening to the radio, which is something us older people used to do quite a bit back in the day. You heard a lot of the disc jockey and whatnot, and it took me back. And it made me think if The Weeknd came out in like the late 80s and early 90s, I probably would have been writing his name on my notebooks. like I did with other bands back then. Number 2, Future, I Never Liked You. There are a few songs on that album that I absolutely loved, and one of them includes one of my favorite people who surprisingly did not make it on my list this year. He has a song with Drake on that album and another newer artist that I happen to like, Thames. The song is called Wait For You, and it is one of my favorites of 2022, as well as the Future by himself's Love You Better. And my number 1, I kind of feel like is going to come as no surprise because I praised it when we reviewed it. It was my top artist in my Spotify 2022, SOS by SZA. My girl to the end. That's all, folks.
And that ends part 1 of our Let's Let Us Know What You Think of Lauren and Mitch's. Let's stay tuned for part 2, which will feature myself and Tyler giving you our top 10 albums of 2022.
Like and subscribe, folks.